Okay, welcome everybody in the next webinar that we organize for the stakeholder board of the Titan project. The Titan project, which is about enabling transparency in food supply chains via the implementation of digital technologies to boost health, sustainability, and safety of products, processes, and diets. Today, for you, we have a very exciting program. We have two startups present their way of working. The first presenter will be Charlotte Aschim from Total Control, based in Norway. And the second presentation will be given by Jean-Miet Kouwer from Open Food Chain. They are based in the Netherlands, and when I don't mention the city, it is Amsterdam. And then we have a presentation by Esra Seuzer from Technical University Delft about traceability matters challenges in food supply chains. So we think this is really representative for the Titan project. We have two SMEs presenting and one university. And that is also maybe the ratio we have in the project, because we have a lot of pilots that are driven by SMEs. Just to give you a heads up, last Friday the newsletter was sent out from the Titan project. We do this every 4 months with relevant news items. One is about Open Food Chain, which is presenting today, where they won another award. They won the Expand North Star Pitch competition, which is also really nice. And we also have an interview with Marta Prado, a scientist. She is developing let's say, rapid on-site detection methods that are DNA-based, and she was interviewed about, let's say, her work, her topic, also in relation to the Corona period. And on the right, you can see Carla Teixeira, and she was at the conference presenting the work she is doing in Titan. And this conference was the Food Fraud Unmasked Symposium for Early Stage Career Scientists. So that's the right place for her to be. Then with this newsletter, we have a special service. We also send out a PDF with a lot of scientific articles and reports that we think are relevant for the field. And what the field for Titan is to help consumers to make informed food choices, to build sustainability in the food supply chain, and to bring innovations to implementation. And innovations can be the rapid detection methods or the digital ones, and that is the majority. So some examples: an article about a school, a community-based food and vegetable program, then an article about policies in relation to agriculture, an article about the power of blockchain-driven digital product transport. This is something that is coming, and I know that a colleague of Esra, she is very interested in this product passport. And then 4 ways to pursue a sustainable seafood diet. So the topics are quite varied, but they fit within our picture. So we really invite you to sign up for the newsletter, and then every 4 months you will get the newsletter, but also this PDF with a long list of relevant articles and reports. And then also in the newsletter, and it will also come on the website, we give a list of events where Titan will be present in the period to come. So next week there's the UFOST conference where EFOS will be present. Next week also the Food Integrity Consortium of conference in Amsterdam. There will be the Food Allergy Forum, the European Blockchain Convention, the Synergy Days, the AIT Food flagship event, Food Revolution, where I will be presenting on front of pack labeling. Then we have the RAFA conference, also about detection methods, and our own EFOST conference, and then the coordinator of Titan, Ilse, they have their annual conference end of November in Denmark. And to end my introduction, until now we had 3 webinars, or then 1 webinar every 3 months, but now we will change to 1 webinar every month. But the webinars are linked to the key expertise areas that we have identified. And the first presentation will be beginning of October for the key expertise area, help consumers to make informed food choices. We will have 2 presentations. One is by Nicola King. She's a senior scientist from New Zealand who I met at a conference in beginning of May. And she will tell about her food safety foresight and emerging risks program. And then we will have a presentation by Karin Johnson, who works for Paulig Company, which is based mainly in Sweden and Finland, but also in Belgium, for instance. And she will talk about Nutri-Score and how a company like Paulig works with it. And then after this webinar, more will follow the beginning of every month, but you will get the information about it. This is what I wanted to share with you. And now I'll give the floor to Charlotte to give her presentation. And I'll stop sharing.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Edward. And as always, I love speaking about how we can make the food system even better. So let me just make sure that you guys see my screen, and then I'll spend the next 15, 20 minutes talking about how we can make your inventory count faster with automation and smart technology. But just before I start, everybody can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so just a quick introduction into who I am and also the company that I'm running and how we are part of this Titan EU project. So my name is Charlotte. I'm the CEO and founder of Total Control. And together with my co-founder, we have over 40 years experience from working in the food industry. So we are experts on food waste prevention, inventory management, and technology. Total Control is an award-winning and B Corp certified company, as well with being an EU-funded company. We have, I think, roughly 60 industry awards to our name, which is pretty good. Our ultimate goal, though, with Total Control is to ensure that we build and sell technology that eliminates food waste worldwide. It's a pretty huge goal, but it's a goal that we aim to reach. And the way that we help eliminate food waste is that we have created an inventory management system that helps businesses streamline their processes, and we'll get more into that. But some of the most amazing things about running a company within the food industry is that there's a lot of opportunities of making huge and fast effects and proven results. Just to give an example from our side, the best customer results that we've seen from using our inventory management system is that they've reduced their food waste by 35% after just 1 month of use. And I'll dive more into some examples of how our technology is being used and what's the future, what we're building together with the EU project. But today, let's dive into how we can make your inventory count faster with automation and smart technology. One of the biggest challenges within inventory management is that basically everything is done manually. Like 99% of all food businesses today, they use pen and paper and Excel sheets or like legacy programs to do inventory count, and it's time consuming. It's labor intense. You usually have a lot of people doing inventory count, maybe once a month or once a year. And it's prone to a lot of errors, and it's inefficient use of resources for sure. Me, myself, I've worked in grocery stores, hotels, and gas stations, and you name it. And I've been part of a lot of inventory counts, and basically I hated it. So we managed to build something that actually automated that process. And the reason why we want to automate inventory count and inventory management is to reach our goal of preventing food waste, because the main reasons for food waste, we waste 1/3 of all the food that we produce every single year. And the main reasons for that is lack of control over inventory, lack of control over expiration dates, and inefficient routines. Things are manual. So by automating a process such as inventory count, we make sure that our customers, they not only count faster, but they reduce labor costs, they improve accuracy, and they enhance their decision making, which means that they order better and they prevent more food waste. And our current system, and this is the system that we will advance in the EU project, but our current system is an inventory management system specifically made for the hospitality industry. So restaurants, hotels, and kindergartens and nursing homes are using the systems. It's a cloud-based platform, and it has an app and it's a web portal. The app is used on the go to do inventory and have control over inventory, whereas the web portal is used for more advanced analytics and reports. Just to simplify how it actually works, because what we do is that we digitize manual work. So if a new restaurant or hotel comes to us and becomes our customer, the first thing that they do is they digitize their inventory. And they do that by just uploading their Excel sheet or an inventory into our solution. It is fast and easy. They download the Total Control app and they start counting items. Once they've completed inventory count, they get a report automatically generated. And that report is sent to the email and is stored in the app, so it easily can be shared to management or to the accountant. Because every month, most of our customers have to report the inventory numbers to their accountant, and we've already generated that report for them. But this is a kind of semi-automated way of doing inventory count and managing inventory. And with the EU project, what we're doing now is that we're taking it to the next level. We're building a fully automated inventory management system using RFID tags, primarily targeting the hospitality industry. And that is because that's the place where they do a lot of things manually now, and the margins are low, and the labor cost is high, and basically they're just sick of doing inventory count and managing inventory. So we are going to help them make sure that they get real-time tracking and monitoring, simplify their data collection, and increase their efficiency and accuracy. And to concretely explain what we're doing in this project and how we're building a fully automated inventory management systems using RFID tags, which is sensor technology, is that we are taking RFID tags, adding a lot of information about the products in those tags, adding them, kind of just putting them on the products, for example, a milk carton. And then we are putting an antenna in the inventories, and that antenna is collecting the data from the RFID tags. And that information is then sent out to our software, where we use that data to create real-time inventory control, data analytics, and reports that are needed for our customers to make better decisions, prevent food waste, and save a lot of time. And this helps reduce, basically eliminate inventory count, because there's no more humans involved. So when you put things in your storage, everything will be automatically inputted, the data, into our systems, and you don't need to count anymore. We will also use this technology to basically track expiration dates so that we can notify our customers and the pilot project partners here about when things are about to expire, so that they actually can use their food or sell it prior to it expiring, and make sure that they get full value for what they actually bought. So this technology and this implementation of sensor technology will help eliminate a lot of the manual processes that the kitchen staff currently are doing. And we rather have the kitchen staff work on amazing food and recipes rather than doing inventory count and managing inventory. And the beauty of doing this type of technology is that it works. It produces effect and results pretty fast. Our current system, the semi-automated inventory management system, already have shown to reduce a lot of time, money, and waste, both paper waste, plastic waste, and food waste. But by creating a fully automated inventory management system, we will multiply the effect that we see. Just to give you some example of the effect that our current customers have seen by using our semi-automated system, is this is a restaurant in Norway where they have used our system for inventory count. And what they've seen is that they've reduced the time that they spend on actually counting inventory by 62% after a couple of months. And they've reduced or eliminated the time that they spend preparing for inventory count and reporting the inventory data to accountants and managers. So we have removed a lot of their manual processes and reduced the time of actually counting. Now, keep in mind, by fully automating this, we will remove it even more. And then we don't only work on time and efficiency. As I mentioned earlier, our goal is to ensure that we eliminate food waste across the entire value chain. And we have seen some amazing results in using our technology to achieve exactly this. This is an example of just nursing home, and we have examples from kindergartens and more. But just to give you some examples from a nursing home here in one of the municipalities in Norway, after 1 month of using our solution, they reduced their food waste by 16% and their beverage waste by 61%. And all of this data about their wastage reduced, of course, it helps benefit them from a CO2 emission perspective as well. So what we do is save time, money, and cut food waste, but we also help them calculate their CO2 emissions because, as you know, moving forward now, all businesses within the food industry have to report on their CO2 emissions, what strategies they have in place, what systems they have in place in order to reduce it and be better at kind of staying more CO2 neutral or negative. And from our kindergartens, we've seen a 35% reduction in food waste after just 1 month of use. So the effect of getting control over your food inventory and digitizing it from pen and paper or Excel sheet is pretty huge. And the effect comes fast as well. And by doing this and fully automating this inventory management system together with the EU project and partners such as Avery Dennison and more, we're taking it to the next level so that future inventory management doesn't require people. It only requires tags and an antenna in the inventories, and then basically you get the reports, the data you need in order to purchase smarter, use better, and prevent food waste from happening. We've built this technology over the last 7 years, so we have an extended experience of what works and what doesn't work. In this project, we are working together with hotels and restaurants and kindergartens to validate that creating a fully automated inventory system works. It gives benefits both from a profitable standpoint, but also from an impact standpoint. And one of the most common questions that we get from our customers is, of course, okay, what's the return of investment for us? And one of the things that we see is after 1 month of use, they've already seen over 350% ROI on their investment. So it takes a month to get the investment back, and getting control over inventory has a huge effect. Not only that, some of the areas that we get asked a lot is also regarding our data security, because we have a lot of information about products and prices and who's dealing with the suppliers and who's using the food and so on. So that information is stored in our database, and being from Norway, we have pretty strict rules in regards to our data security. So using Total Control, you know that your products and data is safe, and not only are you getting a high return on what you invest, but you also get great customer support. So the solution that we have currently is a fully self-service solution. You can go to our website and start using it. The fully automated system that we're doing together with the EU project will be more project-based to start with, and then it will be more self-serve. And just to give you some kind of brief summary of what I've been mentioning for you guys now is that our solution today could help make the inventory count and inventory management faster. And in the future, it will only be better and better. And we will reduce labor costs, and we will improve in accuracy, and we will make sure that you that manage inventory have better data to make better decisions in regards to purchasing and data control and inventory control and impacts. So if you are in need of an inventory system now, I suggest that you go to our website totalcontrol.com and start your free trial there. If you're looking to be one of the lucky ones that are part of this EU project and on the front when it comes to fully automated inventory management system, I suggest that you go to our website and click on our EU project there and join our waiting list, because then you will be the ones getting all of the information about and the updates about this project and be one of the first ones to test it when it's commercialized. So that was just a quick introduction into how you can master inventory count using technology, helping you save a bunch of time, money, and preventing food waste. We are part of the Titan project, and we have the lead for one of the work packages there. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. My name is Charlotte, and I'm the CEO and founder of Total Control. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much. As we are used to an excellent presentation, Charlotte. So how we do this in this webinar, we first have the three presentations, and then we open the webinar for questions. So please, Shamit, it's now the floor is yours. You can share your screen and the presentation, and we look very much forward to hear your story.
Sure. Charlotte, fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. And thank you, Edward. At Open Food Chain, our philosophy is 100% traceability. When we were talking to Edward, Edward said maybe the work that we have done in the cacao industry makes for a very good case study that can be presented. And there's a lot of insight that we can give you on how traceability is really working with the regulations out there in the market that are creating pressures on traders and operators alike. So I'll go with the first slide. Traceability is a must-have, whether we look at EU or we look at Australia, US, Canada. Diving into EU, the regulations that are upon us, which are going to be in effect by December 2024, is the EUDR, which is European Regulations for Deforestation. Every trader and operator in EU is obliged to showcase the goods that they import are actually deforestation free. And that pertains that it has an impact on every actor that is in the supply chain, but also at every critical event that occurs in the supply chain is actually deforestation free. The market that we really touched upon, and we are super mature in this market, is the cacao market. Cacao, again, is imported in EU, the largest importer. And at the same time, a lot of chocolate is made out of cacao, which is consumed by the European Union. The open cacao chain is what we created with a project in Latin, Mi Cacao, which focused on the smallholder farmers that have the critical data and operate on the fields that really require to be deforestation free. Another aspect to look at in the market is the traders and operators, who are obliged by the regulations today to prove that their imports are deforestation free, often cannot even trace back to where the farms and the farmers are located. So that's the gap that you see in the market. On one side, you have the traders and operators that basically sell to the retailers, like Starbucks, etc. But if you look at the chain on the farmer side, they can't trace back to where the farmer and the farm location is, let alone being deforestation free. So the whole chain, all the way down to the farmer, was never really digitized. And because the EUDR focus has come into play, the industries that are affected are 7 of them, and cacao, of course, being one of them. It requires us to have farm level data. It requires us to have geo-referencing. the local laws, the risk assessment and the risk mitigation to have a due diligence report that every trader and operator need to submit by December. And the fines are pretty huge. It's almost 4% of the turnover that they have. So this is serious business here. What we do at OFC is we look at the infrastructure that will enable the traceability. Again, to not only to comply to the regulation, but it is also important that the data that leads to the regulatory report is not really put together as bits and pieces. It's traceability by design. Today, the traders and operators basically give the responsibility to their own suppliers, and they say, we rely on the information that the suppliers are actually giving us. But EUDR puts an obligation on them where they say, you are responsible of the import that has happened, be any supplier. So the data needs to be connected. The data silos need to be broken. The documentation that today is put together to show traceability is not what is going to be working, in the near future. So traceability by design is what is required by the industry, and that's what OFC provides. We believe that blockchain is the solution to it because blockchain data is immutable and is 100% provenance proof. The data that is put together today by different systems out there in the market creates the silos because the information does not flow from one system to another. Rather, it just enhances the silos, which leads to lesser traceability. So as you look at the supply chain, we have the farmer, co-op, processor, trader, and all the way to consumers. We serve them all by providing an infrastructure layer. On the cacao side, what we have done is we've worked with farmers in order to capture the data that the farmers have today. What yield have they grown? Where are the farms located? Whether the farms are really deforestation free. So the verifiers actually do the verification. The data is then hashed on the open food chain, and any supplier any participant in the supply chain can actually look at the open verifiable infrastructure that is OFC to ensure that the claims associated with each batch of the product is fully proven. The checks that allow, whether it's deforestation free, basically, the land tenure rights, the product is deforestation free, it was produced in accordance with the relevant legislation, risk assessment, and if there are any significant risks. All of these assessments are actually done by the verifiers. The data then comes to the open cacao chain. And this will allow the gap that I mentioned earlier, where the traders and operators in EU don't have access to the data on the farm level. They cannot really prove where was the cacao grown? Is it really deforestation free? The gap that they have today will reduce by many folds. So what do we offer to whom? For the farmer, we have a personal profile. We have an e-wallet created for them where the polygons are actually checked. Polygon is the field in which they operate. They can either record the polygon by taking a walking tour around their farm, or they can actually also do a drawing of the polygon. On the co-op side, we give the company profile. We act as farmers for them. We give information that flows from the app towards the co-op, and obviously all the other certificates can also be associated. What we give on the B2B side is batch tracking. So like I said, any chocolate today can be tracked to its batches all the way down to the farm by using OCC. And of course, readiness for the EUDR claims. So this is, for example, the farmer and the co-op app. As you see, the farmer can actually use his phone to draw a polygon, or he can just take a walking tour and draw the polygon. And then the verifications will be carried out. And every sale that he makes to the cooperative will be recorded. And again, this data will flow throughout the chain in order to ensure that the regulations, the EUDR, the deforestation is proven, that this land does not belong to a deforested land. This is, for example, the dashboard for B2B, where you can actually trace your order by a PO number, the PO position, and the delivery date. You can actually look at the EUDR claims, whether the farm plot was deforestation free, verified, not verified, what was the country of origin, and for example, the farmer, who were involved. Of course, because of the GDPR, we cannot really name the farmers or give the exact location, but this is of importance for traders and operators to look at, because they really want to prove that what they have sourced is actually deforestation free. What can you look forward to? Again, we've done the data points that are required for the onboarding. Again, cacao as an industry has its own set of data points that were really required in order to prove deforestation free. We've had the farmer app for data administration, UDR compliant. We've had co-op app for data administration, which is UDR compliant. What is upcoming is we're going to onboard 1,000 farmers. We have already started onboarding co-ops. We've onboarded around 10 co-ops, and we'll continue to do more. What is upcoming in Q4 is a digital wallet. It's also important if you look at the supply chain, the fair pricing for farmers. And digital wallet is a way to enable it and provide the incentive for sustainable farming. So the concept of the digital wallet for farmer income would be coming up in Q4. We will be onboarding more co-ops, like I said, and onboarding of 5,000 more farmers. We're also looking at how we could onboard automatically without the companies really having to go through a large-scale integration. And of course, the final batch tracking dashboard, which we will also improvise and make more mature. Why OFC? Like I said, traceability from bean to product, everything that you need for EUDR claim, you can actually see that traceability enables it, and we enable it by design. Risk assessment and mitigation, we can flag what is not correct in the overall supply chain. We can help you flag the risk, take actions, and of course, be UDR compliant. We're live in cacao with all these participants. Norandino, one of the co-ops in Colombia. We have Casa Luca, Acopagro. These are the parties that we will be working for, and many more to come. We had a B2C implementation as well, where you could look at this chocolate bar, Jungle Gold Bali. It's from Indonesia, and every ingredient of this chocolate bar can actually be traced back just by a QR code. We have easy onboarding. Data is fully protected because we are a blockchain-based system, and we provide digital wallets to every user. Your data remains yours. And we can actually connect with any system through our APIs, which are pretty much standardized because we've had experience in the past of connecting to many, many systems that all of these cooperatives have. Thank you for listening. That was my presentation, and please feel free to get in touch with me at Open Food Chain.
Okay, thank you very much, Janmeet. Also, a very good presentation, and hopefully for the people that are listening, hopefully you understand now why I was so anxious to have Open Food Chain in the Titan project, because they are really exemplary of what we want to achieve with the Titan project. So please keep your questions, and then after the last presentation, then you can ask them. And now I give the floor to Esra to update us on her work in the Titan project.
I forgot to unmute myself. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for confirming. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for your interest in today's webinar. And I'm a PhD candidate, Esra Zorar from TU Delft. I'm halfway through my PhD research journey. And today I will talk about the traceability matters regarding the challenges that can occur in food supply chains. But before that, I want to give a small disclaimer at the beginning of my presentation to set the expectations right. After looking at the practical aspects of traceability systems in place with the previous presentations, I want to give you a little bit information about my research, which I work towards developing a comprehensive approach to overcoming challenges in food supply chains in relation to transparency. And here, traceability is one of the main enablers for transparency. Therefore, it is very relevant to my research. And today, during this presentation, we will discuss the concepts of transparency and traceability and how they are connected to each other. Then we will look at the potential challenges to achieving effective traceability systems in food supply chains from a broader perspective that includes a socio-technical approach. So the main goal here is to broaden our views regarding how to approach such challenges. So to dive into the context of food supply chains, which exist in a context that is highly complex and increasingly interconnected, both socially and technologically. And in this context, there are multiple processes, value chains, actors, and interactions, and the outcomes of a stakeholder or like supply chain activity can affect multiple stakeholders in diverse and even conflicting ways. So today, as a result, mechanisms to mediate the level of complexity and uncertainty in these supply chains are of value because they can help to create a perception of organization, and they can also help us create an environment of control and mastery over potential chaos. So against such complexity, the potential simplicity that can be achieved through communication and information flow through the food supply chain steps across multiple stakeholders gives rise to the notion of transparency. In the literature, there is no shared definition or understanding of transparency. But from our synthesis of the literature scan, we can identify some common terms that are used for this purpose, such as it can refer to disclosure of information. It could refer to information sharing, which is intentional. It could also mean making information available or visible, or giving access or having access to information, as well as the interpretation of the information that is shared for the sake of transparency. But overall, we can say that transparency is an attribute that relates to inherent characteristics of the information that is shared itself. And in the literature, it is referred as some of the requirements that it needs to be timely, needs to be accurate, clear, it needs to be relevant to the stakeholders or like the receivers. Also, it needs to be factual, reliable, and representative. It needs to be dependent on high quality data, and it must translate into information that is meaningful to the receivers. Just a second. So now, if we connect our discussion to the concept of traceability, we will first look at the differences between transparency and traceability as a base of our discussion. So in connection with the previous slide, transparency refers to the overall availability of information regarding food products and processes. So it's a pretty broad concept, we can say. Therefore, the main goal is to enable informed decisions for the consumers and other stakeholders in the food supply chain, and also build trust among these stakeholders. On the other hand, traceability is a more specific concept, and it refers to the tracking the movement and tracing the history of food products through the food supply chain steps. Here, then, we can say the main goal is to ensure operational excellence for various reasons, such as preventing food safety issues, and manage potential risks, such as food recalls. And as a broader concept, transparency efforts can be implemented in different ways. It could be certifications or information that is shared on labeling or through digital technologies. However, traceability requires more specific solutions based on systematic data collection and tracking technologies. But it is important to note that there is a considerable overlap regarding the suitable technology options for each concept. And it is also possible to use the same technology for each concept, but probably for different purposes. For example, as one of the most commonly mentioned technologies, the use of blockchain technology can serve traceability by ensuring accurate tracking of food products, while it can serve transparency by providing decentralized and open access to food supply chain data. So, what is the relationship between transparency and traceability, especially in the global complexity of food supply chains? So, in this context, transparency and traceability are closely connected and often work together to achieve common goals, such as protecting consumers from food fraud, preventing contamination or unethical practices, ensuring food safety and quality, or regulatory compliance. And today, many regulations require both transparency, for instance, through labeling and disclosures, and traceability through record keeping and tracking, which is difficult to achieve one without the other. In this context, transparency builds trust by making information available, while traceability ensures that the information provided is accurate and verifiable, which further enhances the trust. So if we take traceability as the foundation for transparency, there are few specific ways that traceability can build this foundation. For instance, since transparency also requires data collection, the detailed records generated by the tracking tools can provide the basis for transparency. Another benefit for transparency would be the verification of the transparency claims on the labels and certifications. And with traceability, we can identify the time and location where an issue has occurred, which makes the disclosure of information more personal. And it can enable the relevant actors to be held accountable. And the possibility of this happening can be a disincentive for many actors, which leads them to disclose accurate and reliable information, then in turn enhances transparency. So, but it is also important to note that these terms are not synonyms, or they can be used interchangeably, because there could be as well efficient traceability mechanisms without necessarily enhancing transparency within food supply chains. For instance, if the traceability system is completely internally used, this could be a case for it. And transparency requires more than traceability, because it also requires that the information generated by traceability systems to be communicated in a way that it's understandable and accessible. So this can involve clear labeling, public reporting, or effective communication strategies to achieve this. And transparency also implies willingness to share information openly beyond what is said mandatory. And this goes beyond merely having the ability to track food products. So the reason why we have discussed this connection is that to highlight the sector reality, which is that oftentimes it is very difficult to separate traceability efforts from transparency concerns. And in other words, successful traceability systems need transparency considerations. And the realization of this situation allows us to also be aware of the complexity of achieving a successful and effective traceability system that goes beyond, as we said, merely tracking or having the ability to track the food products. So here is to give an example of how we can approach to the challenges for traceability. We can base our discussion to the European Union Farm to Fork strategy, which has the ambition to have end-to-end traceability systems in food supply chains. So even though it is common to see traceability solutions in some steps of food supply chain more often, such as processing, transportation, retail, there are still some gaps in coverage, particularly at the primary production level of food supply chains, as we also saw in the presentation of Open Food Chain. So in this part of the presentation, we will discuss a possible comprehensive approach to how to integrate traceability mechanisms at the farm level, which can lead to create a base for enhancing traceability in further along the supply chain. So the first step of developing a comprehensive approach is to identify interconnections among various considerations. And this is just an example of how we can approach to it. So if we start the discussion with the lack of data collection at the farm level, which is very often the case, the first question that comes to mind is that what type of data that needs to be collected, for what purpose, and how? We also need to ask, does the data collection need to be continuous? Does it need to be real time? And answers to these questions will shape the context for the initial discussion, and some interconnections are going to be formed accordingly. For instance, the choice of data collection technologies, whether it would be IoT sensors, RFID tags, or mobile apps, by logging into mobile apps, it directly impacts the volume and complexity of the data that needs to be stored, managed, and analyzed. So the capacity to use data collection technologies is heavily dependent on farms' infrastructure, and it is also dependent on farmers' ability to use digital technologies, which then in turn affects the choice of technology. To reduce the challenges linked to data storage and analysis needs, maybe adopting a hybrid approach for selective monitoring, meaning that where critical data such as soil data or temperature is collected continuously, while other types of data such as crop yield is collected periodically. And farmers should also be taught to prioritize which data needs real-time monitoring and which can be collected less frequently. So such education, for instance, can be provided in collaboration with their business partners to enhance supply chain communication and coordination. So moving from data collection, we can talk about the ability to store large volumes of data and perform timely analysis for actionable insights. And in this regard, it is very crucial for the success of traceability systems. But achieving this could be very burdensome for farmers, especially for small-scale ones. So one potential solution here would be the use of cloud-based platforms that is scalable for storage solutions, and it also includes built-in analysis tools. And for this, farmers might need some basic digital literacy education on how to use such platforms and also how to understand and interpret the analysis outputs. And farmers can also partner with third-party analytics companies or cooperatives that can produce the analysis of agricultural data. And this can relieve farmers from the technical burden of data management if the other conditions are met. Here, governments or agricultural cooperatives could also provide subsidized access to these services, especially for the case of smallholders. They might not be able to cover the financial costs of integrating such technologies, even though they have the technical capacity to work with these tools. Another interdependency that arises here is that the systems chosen for data storage and management must also ensure data privacy and security. So if the data is stored on cloud-based systems, for instance, encryption and secure access controls must be in place to protect sensitive information. And here, efficient traceability systems should also establish clear policies that gives farmers the ownership of their data, because oftentimes we encounter issues regarding information asymmetries and power imbalances that puts farmers in difficult positions regarding the data they share. So farmers should retain control over who can access and use their data, and traceability systems should make this clear. And from an educational perspective, farmers also need to understand data privacy and security risks regarding the regulations that they have to comply with. So training on how to safeguard data through encryption and secure passwords is essential. And workshops on privacy laws and farmers' rights on their own data could be very empowering. So as large volumes of data are generated, farmers also need a process for data disposal to avoid storing unnecessary data indefinitely, which also increases the technical complexities and financial burden. So efficient lifecycle management for data reduces the burden on data storage systems and preventing them from becoming clogged with unnecessary data, which also affects the efficiency of data analysis. So proper data disposal practices are also crucial to maintain data privacy and security, because if data is not securely deleted, it might be vulnerable to unauthorized access, even the actor of or the owner of the data no longer needs it. Here, implementing clear data retention policies that define how long specific types of data need to be kept and where they can be safely disposed of. And the farmers also need to be educated on the importance of data lifecycle management, and they need to be provided with the tools to automate the process, because if there is no right automation solution, this could create a big burden on farmers regarding how they manage this process while they're already very busy with farm tasks, especially in the case of small farmers. And another interdependency we can discuss here is the farmer's capacity to tackle technological and data challenges, since its critical position has already mentioned in connection to other aspects we just discussed. So the capacity of farmers to understand and use digital technology influences the choice of data collection and management tools. So if farmers have higher digital literacy, they are more likely to adopt more advanced technologies, which could benefit the traceability system's efficiency. Here, the user-friendly and intuitive features are highly important for this adoption of technologies. And solving this would also improve stakeholder engagement within the traceability systems, as farmers with higher technological or digital capacity are more likely to engage effectively with other stakeholders. And the effectiveness of capacity building efforts depend on the availability of support they can get from either cooperatives, NGOs, or government programs. Because without this support, farmers may struggle to utilize traceability technologies fully in the case they decide to adopt these technologies. So in relation, another solution could be for farmers that they can share the costs and resources with cooperatives, which can pool data and offer shared access to technology platforms. But here, we also need to consider the issues of data privacy and security concerns. So they also need to be overcome for achieving this solution. And regarding building support and partnerships, there are also some considerations that we can discuss. For instance, this support and partnership could be achieved through collaboration with agribusinesses, food processors, and retailers that already have a vested interest in traceability systems. So these entities can help farmers to implement traceability systems, and they may even provide the necessary technology to the farmers' use. Here, governments can also form partnerships with the private companies to promote traceability. For example, the technology providers can be incentivized by the governments to provide low-cost, easy-to-use solutions for farmers. And it could be also the case that farmers are not fully aware of the potential partnerships and networks that they can receive support from. So encouraging farmers to engage with supply chain partners and local government representatives is crucial. And regarding the considerations of regulations and policies due to these interconnections, we can mention their key role in driving the adoption of traceability technologies by setting standards and providing incentives for the adoption of these standards. Here, effective regulatory compliance often requires collaboration with the stakeholders, especially when we talk about end-to-end traceability. And these stakeholders can help farmers to meet these standards. This includes training from the NGOs, technology support from businesses, and guidance from government agencies. Here, it is also critical to refer to the solutions that would make it easier for the actors at the primary production level, especially, to understand the regulatory requirements clearly, because sometimes it can get very complicated to keep up with changing regulations, even in the context of the EU. So AI-supported regulatory compliance softwares, for instance, could be an effective solution here to make it easier to understand. And finally, we elaborate on the interdependencies involving infrastructure limitations, as they can hinder technology adoption and data management, and they can also hinder effective collaboration between farmers and other stakeholders. This is, of course, dependent on governments and development agencies to improve infrastructure in rural areas. And given that many rural areas have access to mobile networks at least, there could be some traceability solutions that can be developed for mobile phones, which could be more accessible than using computers. And here, implementing traceability systems that can function offline or with intermittent connectivity that can collect and store data offline and synchronize when internet access becomes available again. And lastly, farmers should be made aware of low-tech alternatives that could fit in their infrastructure reality. And they should also be encouraged to advocate for better rural infrastructure through local cooperatives and governmental agencies to also support the improvement in this direction. So, coming back to our comprehensive approach, again, this was just an example of what it could look like. And depending on the context, it could be looking very different. But here, the goal is to highlight what the approach could look like. So, for instance, if we put it on the steps to follow, it could start with assessing the farm's current capabilities and needs, especially regarding infrastructure and farmers' literacy. And then an appropriate data collection technologies can be selected in accordance. And this could also be the base of developing a data management strategy. And from there, the actors can address the data privacy and security concerns in relation to the technologies they have chosen for data collection and management. And from there, they can also engage with support networkships and partnerships in case there are any limitations to achieve the previous steps. Here, it is also important to leverage policy and regulatory support, both to avoid non-compliance, but also the possibility of making an easier and smoother transition for more efficient traceability systems. Then, after all that, the actors can implement and then try to scale the traceability systems, but it also requires continuous monitoring, evaluation, and doing the adjustments of the system in accordance to improve it, which might mean to going back to previous steps and then making adjustments there, which also is highly dependent on identifying such interconnectedness, as you mentioned in the previous slide, so that it would be more efficient, that the time and effort that can be put to improve the traceability system could be more efficient in the end. Thank you for listening. This is the end of my presentation. And yeah, if you have any questions, I would be happy to talk to you about them.
Okay, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. And maybe we heard now the content of your first publication. I don't know, let's see. We will wait for it to come. So the three presentations are now open for questions. I don't know if anyone in the audience has a question for Charlotte, Shanmeet, or Esra. And you can open your mic and ask the question. If not, then I will start carefully. So Charlotte, in your presentation in the beginning, you mentioned that you are a B Corp. Can you explain to us what this means and what you had to do to become a B Corp?
Sure. So B Corp is basically a certification that can certify companies, and the certification gives you kind of the certification of being the best within impact, social and environmental impact. So what we had to do in order to become a B Corp was that we had to go through almost a year-long process where we had to answer a lot of questions about our business, about our customers, about our suppliers, about our finances, about our employees, to give the credibility that we're running a business that actually really takes care of social and environmental and financial impact. So through that process, we had to submit a lot of data. We had some back and forth with some of the advisors there, and then we were scored in regards to our answers and our documentation. We all have to have a score over 80%, and if we do so, we are then certified to be one of the best companies within social, environmental, and impact. So that is pretty good. So we're making an impact, not just only a business, but more.
And was it worth the effort to, let's say, to fill in all the forms and to spend your time like this?
For sure. It has built credibility around our company for sure, and it's made it easier for us to employ people as well that want to be more involved in business that actually wants to make an impact. It's given credibility for customers, and it's made it easier for us also to select the partners that we want to work with, because we want to work with other B Corp certified companies because they are concerned about both social and environmental impact, and that's what we want to work with and play with.
Okay, thank you very much. Manuela, I've seen that Vincent wants to ask a question, but he cannot unmute himself. Maybe you can help him.
Now he should be able to talk.
Yes, I am. Sorry, I can unlock the camera. A question for you, Ezra. It's about the congratulations for presentation and for upcoming publication. In terms of, we come across recently that Spain has a database, a strong database. I mean, the authorities, the government has a strong database where basically we cannot go and get the information. So without the approval of all the parties that make and that provide that information, which is fine. I agree. It's actually fine to ask for permission. However, to me, it looks like even if from the public authorities, they have put together data, which is great. They should put also a context of regulation context to to free the access, because we need to go. Otherwise, we need to go to one by one to the data provider to actually get some data and be able to exploit to be able to work on them. So I don't know if my question is I mean, my question is not really a question. It's more about have you in your analysis of because from farmer to the from farmers to the exploitations of data from coming from farm, you for the good sake of traceability, you need to have I would say an easy common access to data traceability in order to be able to provide to make the system really transparent. So so we come across several situations where the authorities are not probably fully playing the role they should be playing in order to do that. So I don't know if this is something that you had in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Vincent, first of all, for this question. I think it's a very good point. And yes, I definitely encountered this challenge and also the concern that traceability systems, of course, require constant access to databases. And with that, first of all, comes the issue of standardization and interoperability issues. That reduces the effectiveness of the use of such databases, but also because these systems are heavily dependent on building trust while ensuring data privacy and security. It is essential to have some trustworthy actors in place to ensure that the data in this data sets can be used safely and effectively while keeping the trust in place and also enhancing the trust, because there are several challenges that comes into place in this only one situation. So it's very complicated, but in the end, through the interviews I had with actors from the sector, I encountered that that they mentioned the need for a trusted institution or an actor to mediate all this chaotic situation.
Yeah, thank you. And it's quite a challenge. And obviously, yes, the public authorities cannot do the crazy stuff. They have to be more secure than secure. No, but then at a certain point of time, I mean, we got this is where the conflicting of interest in certain extent. You need transparency, but you cannot give transparency. So it's not easy. The regulation doesn't support transparency in terms of how to access to data. But basically, it's something that will be solved over time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can follow up on this with a question for Shalmit, because your company is called Open Food Chain, and you presented about the open cacao chain. But at a certain moment, you made the remark that your data remains yours. So maybe you can explain what we call the spagat. Maybe that's also an English word you are in, because you want to be open, but some parts of the data have some kind of protection. Maybe you can explain.
Yes, and I think I fully relate to the presentation that was the third presentation about the data. I think the need of protection of data was paramount when we were also working for the open cacao chain with the LATAM farmers. And whereas they do want to use blockchain for radical transparency and decentralized transparency. So, what we did was we said there is a mechanism on building digital wallets where only the person who enters the data can actually see the data, and it is hashed over blockchain. So anybody looking at the system, which is blockchain, cannot really decrypt the data. So that's the encryption mechanism, and that is why we see that blockchain is so appropriate for such a solution. And such a problem is anybody who wants to enter data can actually enter his own data. It doesn't really need to be, visible to everybody. So we provide digital wallets in order to enter such a data, which basically also preserves the security of the data, but at the same time that data can be released on demand whenever required. But when we look at the claims data, for example, on batches, that needs to be a publicly verifiable data. So we segregated based on the GDPR rules. We also segregated in solution-wise what data needs to be hashed on the blockchain that becomes publicly verifiable, and what data doesn't need to be on a publicly verifiable infrastructure. So that's how we segregated the solution and the data collection part.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions or remarks in the audience?
Well,
Yes,
guess-
there is a question in the Q&R part to Ezra, actually.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I
Ezra,
just saw
maybe if you
that,
can read it and answer it.
Yeah, of course. The question is from Andrea. So it refers to the digital literacy I mentioned in my presentation that is focused on farmers' capability. But he's asking about what about the readiness of the public administration in interacting with stakeholders and ensure traceability and transparency along the supply chain. Do you already have findings about that? So I guess this is also connected to the discussion we just had now. So far, it is very common to mention that the regulatory requirements on the traceability data is one of the main reasons why all the data is collected and shared. And this is unfortunately not at the optimum level on the public administration side regarding the barriers towards being more transparent. As an example, this is from Italy, from one of the interviews we had, that the participants mentioned that there's a lot of public authorities that are demanding very similar information in a slightly different formats on reporting, and they have to go through all that for each government unit. Even though it could be done more effectively if these government units are collaborating with each other and reduce the work on the farms, that maybe they can integrate the reports they collect, maybe they can match the formats, but it's not in place right now. And they even gave the example that these two government units are in the same building, but they're not really in communication with each other. So I would say there's definitely some improvements in that aspect as well. To first reuse the data that is already collected and already reported. But this, of course, brings the issue of ensuring that the data is securely protected. And also in connection to the previous discussion, if such collaboration is enabled, this would also might make it possible to use the data that is collected for regulatory compliance for different purposes as well. So instead of taking it as a burden, it could also be used for harnessing opportunities regarding their business or stakeholder collaborations. But it is also a little bit perspective shift. And yeah, some trust mechanisms are also need to be in place to achieve that. But yeah, so far in this moment, it's not really there yet.
Okay, thank you very much. Andrea is typing. I have another question for Charlotte. And when we wrote a proposal for the Titan project, one of the topics we were most concerned about, and it is also a topic that is let's say playing in multiple pilots, is the issue of interconnectivity. And with the system of that Charlotte is building, there will be different sensors, different types of sensors, different places, and ideally all the data is sent to one laptop where then the chef or the person that is responsible for the warehousing can see what is happening with all the goods and then can make choices and even make recipes based on the vegetables and fruits that are in the warehouse. How do you see this, Charlotte? Where are you on the interconnectivity journey? Is Charlotte still in? Can we see?
She is, but she's mute. So
Charlotte, you're now on mute.
Yep. Hey guys, sorry, my Wi-Fi just broke. Could you repeat that, Edward? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So when we were building the Titan consortium, we were worried about interconnectivity. And we see that multiple pilots, this issue is being addressed. Well, your pilot is a great example of this, because you want to have different sensors at different places with different products. And the ideal is that that the person that's responsible for this, the chef or the person that's responsible for the warehousing, can sit behind the laptop and see all the information. So how do you deal with this? Where are you on the interconnectivity journey? That was the question.
Great question. So yeah, so one of the things that we did pretty early was that we created a solution for the ones that were in the kitchen. And then we saw that the managers wanted more and more information. So as of now, what we've done is that we have created a super admin and then an admin and a viewer in the layer of our technology, which means that the super admin has access to all of the analytics and the data about multiple departments and inventories and data sources. And then it's restricted as you go. And this is something that the users or our customers and the pilots themselves control who has insight to what information, because they control that information. And then in regards to having insight and connecting to third-party systems and so on, we restrict, of course, the information that comes and goes between those systems. But with the RFID technology and the fully automated inventory management system, that would be the same structure, where we would have a super admin, an admin, and a viewer and reader access. And this restricts a lot of the data, but it also communicates the data to the correct people and places, if that answers your question.
Yeah, well, I can remember that with discussions about would there be tags on each individual product or on the crate, and then what happens when products leave the crate and still are in the warehouse. I think that's also part of the challenges you meet.
Yeah, and just to answer that as well, so one of the things that we are doing with this project is that we're starting with 1 and 2 product lines and connecting the RFID tags to those product lines to see that we can basically trace the food from it coming into the restaurant locations until it being used from the storage and in production. So we're starting with a few product lines, and then we're scaling it once we see that that tracking of the data is moving smoothly. And then we will scale it. And the goal ultimately is to make sure that, okay, producers can implement RFID technology so that we don't have to do that on the kitchen level. That's the ultimate goal. But this project will help validate that this actually helps a lot, not only from a financial point of view, but also from impact and social norms. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I have one question for Chanmit, and that is about the certification and the partners you collaborate with. Because before summer vacation, we had a presentation from Meridia, and I think that's a company that is in your ecosystem. Yeah. And you explained now for the cacao chain that farmers can make their own polygon, and with their phone or with a walk show how it is. But there are a lot of satellite-based systems now being at least tested for cacao and coffee chains. Can you comment on this? With which type of partners do you work? Do you also have a preference for B Corps or any others? Any other thoughts?
So let me answer the B Corp question first. I think in my past experience, I've actually worked in startups, scale-ups, and enterprises, and I was leading innovation in trade and commodity finance for ABN AMRO. And yes, at that point, we did have a preference for B Corps. And I know the amount of effort that goes into actually being certified as B Corp, so that's immense, and certainly it pays off in the long term. At Open Food Chain, we don't really have a policy per se to work with B Corps in a way, but I think it just falls into place on its own because when we work on the B2B side, most of the companies really comply to those standards anyways. So that helps. Then coming to the question of partnerships, um, you know, in the cacao chain, it was super important to work with local authorities as well. So that really is important because they understand the nuances and they help us form, fill in that literacy gap. So we worked with local authorities, and that's how the whole project is structured as well, in Peru and Colombia. Uh, Meridia, yes, is part of it because we also need to look at, how the polygon checks will be enhanced, and that's where Meridia will play a role. How much will Meridia play a role again is something being evaluated as we speak, but they have a very good proposition that fits in rightly into the open cacao chain. So I would call another pool, which is called the verifiers, and Meridia is one of the very capable verifier pool. So local authorities, verifiers. On the other side, you look at georeferencing, so that's where we could look at companies like Space for Good, Farm Force, etc., that play into the role of georeferencing. So those are our partners as well. But most important partners, really remain the local authorities. That really understand the farmers, the cooperatives, the nuances out there. And these are specifically sort of the pools that we are looking at. And of course, we ourselves are the infrastructure provider. Again, interoperability is also very important for us. So another pool that I would be actually looking at is what are the systems out there in the market that will allow us to be more interoperable, and have larger adoption, so to speak, because B2B is pretty diverse if I look at the IT landscape in terms of interoperability, and that's also sometimes creating, a bottleneck. If we want to really go as a public infrastructure on which claims can be verified all the way up to the farm level, we need to be interoperable. And so that's another pool that I would be looking at. But these are sort of the partnerships. Another is obviously the thought leaders, that actually create the awareness, and are super experts in the food industry is another pool that we are always closely attached to. Our founder, of course, has a lot of experience, but we closely attach ourselves to, the thought leaders in the food industry that basically are able to drive the standards that we want to create on our platform.
Okay, that's a great answer.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if anyone wants to react on it. Otherwise, I would like to thank everybody and first the three presenters for giving an excellent presentation and answering the questions. And I would like to thank everybody for their attention. And we hope within a few weeks, these presentations will be available on the website of Titan, and you can look back. And we will make a connection also with the website of the company so that it can also be reached from there. I thank you all again, and then next month, 8th of October, we have the next set of two presentations. Okay, thank you, and have a nice day and a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much.
Bye.